Hello. This will be a very short tutorial concerning a few basic functionalities in Studio Code, which is a drag and drop software that you're going to use in one of your sprint tasks in the upcoming February weekend. Studio Code is very much similar to Scratch in that it sort of preserves the same basic functionalities, and it's drag and drop, so there's no advanced high-level programming knowledge that is required. Nonetheless, I do want to take you through some basic functionalities involving Studio Code that will help you solve one of your sprint tasks. So let's get started. So I've opened up Studio Code over here and I've gone to projects. And right now, the particular project or type of project that we're going to need to use in your sprint task is the dance project. So I'm going to go to my dance party project over here. Once I click that button, you'll basically see a blank workspace and a little window at the left corner in which your animation will appear. There'll be one orange block called setup, and in that setup, you basically set up the parameters of your world. So if you go to world over here, you'll see that there are different functions that you can choose from: set background effects, set foreground effects, and background color, and so forth. And you're going to take one of these three and just plop it into that little orange block called setup, and that will help you set up your world. So here I'm going to set my background effect, plop it in there, it clicks because it's a drag and drop software, and I'm just going to click whatever background effect I want. So randomly, I'm going to say cool, I don't know, when my colors will be circles, for example. If I then run this with and background music that ends up being Shawn Mendes, If I Can't Have You, you'll see that you'll see basically what played there is just simply, well, cool circles. There were a bunch of circles that appeared according to how I set my background effect. If you choose a different background effect, like electronic, I don't know, diamonds, then you'll see a different animation. So this ends up being, of course, electronic diamonds. And you can play around with some of these things. So I can set the foreground to whatever I want as well. There's loads of different things that I can do. So it's set foreground to bubbles. And bubbles will appear in the foreground. And lastly, something else about the world is I can also set a background color. Maybe I'm going to set the default to red. Let's see what that does. So it does appear that if you set the background color after you set the background effect, that overrides the background effect. So you no longer see the electronic diamonds, you just see red. And that's because set background color overrides what you did previously. So that's a redundancy in the code, and you can just take out whichever one you want. So if I want to keep red, then I take out the electronic diamonds. If I want to keep the red, if I want to keep the electronic diamonds, then I take out the red. To take out something, you take your block of code here, and you just take it off to the side and you drop it into the trash button. Okay, so that's all about setting up your world and making background and foreground effects. The next thing that I want to introduce is how to make animals, how to make little dancers appear in your screen. So to do that, we can just go to dancers here, and I'm going to make a dancer. So I'm just going to plop that in there. So right now I have a background of electronic diamonds, a foreground of bubbles, and I'm going to make some creatures here. So I'm going to make a cat at the top. I also am feeling a bit creative, so I'm going to make maybe, I don't know, I can choose anything I want, a duck at the top right. If I play this, you directly see right there before I paused it that there was clearly a cat and a duck. Okay, what if I want to create more than one of these animals at a time? I'm going to actually shut down the volume because I don't want to play Shawn Mendes over and over again. So there we go. If I want to get more than one dancers, I can, of course, use the second button over here and put that in my world. And I can say make 6 new bears or whatever number I want. Bears, I don't have to choose a bear. I can choose an alien. I can choose a moose or a pineapple. And I can arrange them however I want. So in a border, inside square, diamond, circle, grid, and so forth. Okay, so I can pick whatever I want. Here I want 6 bears in a circle, in addition to a cat at the top, a duck at the top right, a background of electronic diamonds, and a foreground of bubbles. And you see that if I run this, I'll get exactly that. So here is my, here are my bears, there's my cat, that's my duck, and exactly as I wanted. Now, I want to make my dancers do things. Right now, they're just sort of wiggling about. I want to make them do something. So for that purpose, I can go to, not properties here. I can go back to dancers and I can make them do something. So I can make them do, for example, clap high forever. Sure. So I can say all of them do clap high forever. Let's see what that does. So now you see they're actually clapping like that. But what if I don't want all of them to clap? What if I just want one animal to clap? Then I can go down and select my animal. So what if I just want the cat to clap forever? Or if I want the cat to like dab forever to the left, this means to the left, that means to the right. Then if I reset here, I should just see the cat doing the dab. And you see that's exactly so, the cat just does the dab. So I can make my animals do things, and you can play around more. If you can go into Studio Code and explore more around, you can definitely do things like they all do Gangnam. You can also do something more complicated, like you can make all of them alternate every 2 measures. So every 2 musical measures between 2 different actions, like you can make all of them alternate between fresh and floss, right, forever. And you can see what that does when you just play around with it. That looks a bit weird, but I don't know. Up to you to play around with that. Okay, so that's all I wanted to introduce there. In addition, I wanted to introduce the notion of a measure. So obviously this is happening forever. So everything I did here, nothing is changing. If I play this video on forever, it will continue to do exactly that, exactly what I just showed you forever. Obviously, maybe you wanted to introduce a bit of variation to this. So for that reason, let's go to events. So in events, I'm going to say maybe when the bass peaks, or the bass peaks, sorry, rather, or maybe when up is pressed, or maybe when I count 4 measures, let some other action be performed. So maybe you can write when up is pressed. Here I'm going to choose after a certain number of measures, plop that in there. And I expect that after a certain number of measures, I want something different to happen. Okay, what do I want to happen? I want to change maybe the background color. I don't want it to be red. Maybe I want the background color now to be green. Maybe I want my world to be different because the foreground is no longer bubbles, the foreground's now rain. Maybe I don't want the bears anymore. Okay, in that case, I will go to properties, and I'm going to set the visibility of my bears to invisible. So maybe if I want my bears to no longer be there, I want to get rid of my bears, then I'm going to set my bears visibility to invisible. Right? And there's loads of other things that you can try around. Maybe I want all of these, all of their sizes to magnify by, I don't know, a factor of 2. So then all the animals that remain, I'm going to magnify the size by 2. And there's loads of other different properties that you could try that you want to implement after 4 measures have been counted. So let's see how this works. So measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, measure 4, something different should happen now. And so you see background is green, the bears have gone, I've changed it to rain, and so forth. Okay, and they've all been magnified by 2. So play around with all of these. You can do other functionalities. These are pretty much intuitive, like set the dance speed of certain animals to fast or set them to slow, change all their size, randomize the size, and so forth. Okay. The last thing that I want to introduce, so we've gone over world. We don't need functions for this task, but you can play around with that if you're interested. Properties, we've gone over the important ones. Events, we've gone over the important ones, I think. Named dancers. So as to named dancers, you can basically, instead of referring to the cat all the time as a cat, you can name the dancer something, and then after change the properties of that object that you've just named. So let me introduce what I mean by that. Let's suppose now I want to make a pineapple, and I'm going to call that pineapple, I'm going to call it a variable. and I'm going to refer to that variable after, and I'm going to change the properties of the pineapple based on what I define the variable to be. So I'm just going to say, rename this variable to I love pineapples. Okay, and I'm going to create this new variable called pineapples, and I'm going to refer to it all the time as I love pineapples, just because. And I'm going to create that at the top. Now, what that means is that every time I want to change something about I love pineapples, I'll have to refer to it as I love pineapples throughout. So for example, what I can do is I can go back to name dancer, and I can make that particular dancer do something. So for example, I can make I love pineapples do the Gangnam to the right forever. And every time I apply an action on the pineapple, I will always call it I love pineapples, or I always call it dancer one or something. So let's see what that does. So we're waiting for measures here. And there, the pineapples is doing the Gangnam at the top. Okay, the very last thing that I want to introduce, so we've gone over named dancers, is a section, we don't need numbers, is a section concerning logic. So the main piece of logic that I need you to be able to know are these if-else statements. So let me put one in. The way that you interpret these if things with two of these spaces in between for you to drag things in is you interpret this as follows. If something is true, then execute whatever code you put here. If that thing is not true, then execute whatever code you put here. So how do we interpret this? If I love pineapples, my pineapple is doing the Gangnam, which is true, then I'm going to execute make 6 new bears in a diamond, and I'm going to ignore making a new cat at the top. So when I play this code, because I love pineapples is actually doing the Gangnam, I expect this piece of code to be executed and this piece of code to be ignored. This is the if-else statement. If this is true, execute the first one, else execute the second one, but the if statement is true, so we execute the making 6 new bears. Let's see how that looks. We should see no new cat appearing at the top. We should see the 6 new bears. So there are the 6 new bears, right? However, let's suppose I change this if statement to something that's actually false. So it's false that the I love pineapples is doing the drop. It's not doing the drop, it's doing the Gangnam. Now I should see that a new cat is made at the top, but no bears appear because the if statement is false. So then you have to defer to the else statement. So I should see a cat appearing at the top. Admittedly, I did actually put a lot of things at the top, so I'm going to put this at the bottom, just so things are not cluttered. So I should see a cat at the bottom instead. Okay, so we play this. And there is the cat exactly at the bottom, like we expected, because the else statement is true. Okay, so that's all I wanted to look over in this short tutorial. Evidently, you can play around with all of these things if you're going to maybe get a bit of an upper hand on how to use Studio Code. You can investigate a lot of these other different properties according to your own volition and sense of fun. But these are all the functionalities that you need to know for the upcoming task in the weekend. So I hope this was helpful, and yes, good luck.